Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the game review. Everton 0, Wolves 1 at Goodison Park on Saturday. Our third straight defeat in as many Premier League games. The first time Everton have lost all of their opening 3 Premier League games in a single season. An incredibly disappointing result, an incredibly frustrating result, a very similar game of football to the game against Fulham. Actually, a good performance in the sense of that we created chances, we had opportunities, we were probably the better team, but ultimately the end result, and we all know the end result is all that matters, was another defeat. And once again, Saturday for me showed why the problems at this football club are quite evident. Now obviously we've had the news earlier on today that Everton have signed Beto from Udinese on a 4-year contract, and that obviously is a massive sort of deal for the football club to bring in a forward, a striker, a striker that ultimately we have needed for a number of years. Is obviously a massive step in towards the right direction. There's an argument to be had that if we'd have had Beto on Saturday, then maybe we'd have converted a couple of those chances and maybe we wouldn't be sitting here talking about a defeat. But that is all obviously if, buts and maybes. Firstly, before we get into this, by the way, I apologise that this live stream is a little bit late. I've been in London for the last couple of days. I can't tell you why I've been in London. All will be revealed in due course. But I've been in London for a couple of days, so I wasn't able to do it yesterday. And I've literally just got back about 20 minutes ago, if that. So this is the first time I've been able to actually sit down and do this video. Obviously, I did the Beto video on the train going home. So I'm sure if you've seen that, you'll be thinking, why is he recording this on a train? But I just wanted to get that out there as soon as the deal was announced and have a little bit of a conversation about that. So yeah, like I said, very similar to the Fulham game a couple of weeks ago, and ultimately incredibly frustrating. And whilst I understand that there are positives to take from performances like this, in the sense of that, we were probably the better team, we created a lot of opportunities, we had chances to win the game, blah, 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 blah. Ultimately, the only thing that matters is what that scoreboard says at the end of 90 minutes. And if you've dominated the game and you've had 100 shots at goal and you've lost that game, then you get no points. If you've been absolutely battered for 90 minutes, you've had 1 shot at goal and the opposition have had 100 shots, but you win the game 1-0, then you walk away with all 3 points and the opposition walks away with nothing. And that ultimately is how football works. And Everton are not in a position at this moment, and never have been in a position, but certainly not at this moment this season. Everton are not in a position to, be sort of taking massive positives from games of football that we are losing, regardless of how we performed, or regardless of how many shots we had at goal, how well we did in patches, how poor the opposition was. It doesn't matter. Football is all about results, and as we've seen in the last 2 seasons, if you don't get those results in those games, then it ultimately comes to a point at the end of the season, in the last couple of months, where it becomes very, very uncomfortable, very stressful, very anxious, and things become unsavoury. And we don't want to be in that position again. And the way in which you avoid being in that position is by winning these types of games at home that you ultimately dominate and expect to win. And Wolves was another example of one in which we did that, but we didn't win the game. And that, for me, is why I was so frustrated on Saturday evening, why I was so angry, because the club have had years to bring in a centre-forward. The club have had years to bring in creative players, and they haven't. They haven't done so, and ultimately, we can sit here now and talk about the positives of bringing somebody like Beto in, and obviously we did the video earlier on today talking about that signing, but the reality of the situation is Beto should have been in 5 or 6 weeks ago, to be ready for the start of the Premier League season, so that he could feature against Fulham, so that he could feature against Wolves, so that these types of games, maybe Everton come out with wins in, as opposed to, obviously losing them. But that didn't happen, did it? And ultimately, we've lost a couple of games that I feel were incredibly winnable games, and games that Everton should have been getting something out of. The Blues says, yes or no question, Cam, was the trip to London content related or not? Don't need to explain yourself, just wondering. It was YouTube content related, yes, but I can't say why. But yes, I wasn't just there for a trip to London. I'll say that. But as I said, I can't say any more because I don't want to get in trouble. And yeah, there you go. So yeah, like I said, obviously, it's a few days later, and the sort of the emotions have calmed down, and the way in which you analyse a game of football is much different, sort of 24 hours, 48 hours on than when you've just watched that game. And that's why I like doing the instant match reactions, because it's very raw, it's very emotional, it's very in the moment. But I also like doing, a review video a couple of days later, because you've had more time to settle down, the emotions aren't as high, and you can look at it in a little bit more of a sort of an objective way, and maybe a little bit more of a from an outside looking in point of view, as opposed to just the pure emotion of the situation. But obviously, the day started as it always does on a match day, an hour before a ball is being kicked, with the team news, and we said going into this game in the preview that this is a big opportunity for Sean Dyche to really sort of change the narrative of this game of football before the ball is even being kicked, dependent on who he decides to choose in that starting 11. We all knew the manager needed to make changes going into this game. We all knew that Michael Keane simply wasn't, capable of being one of our starting centre-backs, and we've known that for some time. A lot of people have called for Jared Branthwaite to be given his opportunity. He was given his opportunity next to James Tarkowski. We obviously had Lewis Dobbin in there as well, with the absence of Alex Iwobi, with the absence of Damari Gray. Obviously, we know Dwight McNeil, Jack Harrison are unavailable as well, so Lewis Dobbin got his opportunity to make his first Premier League start of his career. James Garner occupied the other side of the midfield, which, again, I understand the manager hasn't got a lot of options. I understand that his hands are tied behind his back a little bit with options for wingers, but I think Saturday shown once again, and it proved what we already knew, and that was that James Garner certainly isn't a winger or a right midfielder of any sort. And obviously we had Dan Juma up front on his own in the absence of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Neil Maupay was not preferred. And again, a couple of big decisions made from the manager going into this game. Obviously, there was a lot of sort of worry going into this that we would see Michael Keane, back in the starting 11. We would see Neil Maupay back in the starting 11. So for him to make those changes going into it ultimately was something that boosted the atmosphere and certainly boosted the feeling around this game going into it, and I think a lot more Blues were more confident once they'd seen that team than what they would have been had they'd have had, Michael Keane or Neil Maupay in it, or, players that have already shown this season, ultimately are not good enough to be there. So going into the game, again, I don't know whether confidence is the right word when talking about Everton anymore, because I don't know if I'm ever confident that Everton are going to come out of a game of football with a win, just because we don't do that very often. But there was certainly an air of optimism going into this one for me, especially after we'd seen the starting 11, especially after we knew that Jared Branthwaite was being given his opportunity. Obviously, Lewis Dobbin in there. There was an optimistic feeling for me that Everton could come out of this with something. Obviously, Wolves at the time of kick-off were rock bottom of the Premier League. They'd lost both of their opening games of the season as well. We've known, Wolves' problem for a number of years now, not just this season, is that they struggle to score goals. And whilst defensively they might be okay, and whilst they might have done okay in their opening game against Manchester United, they notoriously struggle to score goals, and therefore struggle to win matches as well. So very similar to Everton, really. So it had all of the hallmarks of a 0-0 draw, and it very nearly was a 0-0 draw. I mean, if we have a look at the stats of the game just a moment before we go into talking about the game in its actual self, Everton had 15 shots at goal, Wolves had 11, Everton had 7 on target, Wolves had 2 on target. So that's 42 shots on goal, I think it was, or 32 shots on goal in the opening 2 home games of the season, and no goals scored, and obviously no wins. But, we started the game relatively well. Arnold Danjuma, getting in the action straight away. Obviously, he got through on goal from a fantastic Amadou Onana ball. He hits the post with a one-on-one with Jose Sarr, and the flag is raised for offside. But it's positive signs. We're getting in, within the opening 5-10 minutes of the game. We're getting in on goal. We're having chances. We're creating opportunities. We're sort of, we're looking confident, and we're looking the more likely team to score. And this game, typically typical of games that happen at Goodison Park, Everton start well. Typically, Everton, we're on top in the opening sort of first 15-20 minutes. We don't very often score in those moments, and make the most, of those chances and those periods of possession. We often have 2 or 3, significant chances in the opening sort of 15, 20, 25 minutes of a game, but very, very, very few times do we actually take one of those chances, and do we go into sort of the second period of the first half, if you like, 1-0 up or 2-0 up and in a comfortable position. We often miss those chances, and then there becomes an assumption that, well, all right, we've had a brilliant start to the game, we've created a few chances in the opening 50 minutes, just carry on like this and one will come. But what happens more often than not is we miss those chances. The longer the game goes on, the opposition get into it more and more and more and more, and then ultimately those misses end up coming and biting us on the arse, and we end up ultimately losing the game. And that was very much what happened again on Saturday. We had another massive opportunity in the 28th minute. They win a corner. It was cleared out by Garner, and Everton win a corner, on the left. Garner clears it out, and his strike hits Lewis Dobbin, and Jose Sarr makes a fantastic save. Tarkowski then hits the rebound into the side of the goal, and again it was another big opportunity for Everton to capitalise, for Everton to go 1-0 up, and for Everton to get an advantage. And I think you could tell in this game, similarly to Fulham really, is that the more chances we missed, the more nervous the players seemed, and the more there seemed to be a lack of confidence, and there seemed to be a sort of air of, for every miss, it was almost like the pressure sort of multiplied by a couple of percent, so that for every other chance that followed, there was more pressure on it, and then that chance would be missed, and then the next chance there'd be more pressure on that. And it probably was, because the crowd obviously, were getting a little bit frustrated when chances were being missed, and obviously we haven't scored a goal this season yet, so it's not even like we're just looking for our first win of the season. We're looking for our first goal of the season altogether. So I think there's a problem at the moment within this football club and within this squad, is that every single one of these players seems to be absolutely terrified when it comes to being in front of goal and taking an opportunity, whether that's the forwards, whether that's the midfielders, whether that's the defenders. It seems like every single one of these players is just terrified to put the ball in the back of the net, and when that moment comes where they need to have that final finish, it's not quite there. We had another one not so long after, where Patterson put a really good ball into the box after taking on Dawson, I think it was, and Danjuma's on his own in the 6-yard box, and he literally got enough time to take the ball down, control it, and he'd have been able to pass it into the net, but he doesn't. He tries to hit it on the volley, it misses, and again, it's another big opportunity. It's another chance to go a goal up just before half time, build the confidence, and take a lot of that pressure off the situation. We don't. We go in at half time again. Not a lot happened. As I said, Everton had the much better chances in the first half. Wolves had very few opportunities. Jordan Pickford was tested very little in that first half, and Everton again had opportunities that I found myself sitting at half time thinking, are we going to come to regret them? Are we going to be sat here in the second half and thinking, do you know what? Ultimately, is that going to come back to bite us on the arse? And that, I feel, is, as I said, very much of what is happening at the moment. Certainly in the opening couple of games of the season, I discount the Villa game because, again, it was an absolute whitewash and we were never in it. But certainly in the game against Fulham and in the game against Wolves, we're having a lot of opportunities, and it's easy to look at it and go, well, you're not taking your chances, but there's a reason we're not taking our chances, and that's because every single chance we're having, like I've just said, for every miss, the next chance, there's more pressure on it. And, the Blues gives a fine example of the Brighton game. We beat Brighton 5-1 away from home last season. The reason that was such a convincing win is because Everton were brilliant on the day, Brighton were poor, but we took pretty much every chance that we had. Every opportunity that we had on the break, we scored. Every bit of creativity we had, we scored. We were brilliant on that day. We were faultless. Every single opportunity that come our way, we took advantage of. So there was no pressure on Abdoulaye Doucouré when that ball got fizzed over the box, when that cross got fizzed over the box, because we were already 1-0 up. We'd already scored. So there was no pressure for him to hit that on the volley. You have to ask yourself the question is, if we weren't 1-0 up and he'd missed an opportunity, would there have been pressure on him would that pressure on him, would have be sort of multiplied, and therefore would he have volleyed that with such ease into the back of the net? Well, no, I don't think he would have. So there is definitely a situation at the moment where the more opportunities we miss, the more pressure is piled on the players because of that. And rightly so, because we're in a position where we can't afford to be missing easy chances. We can't afford to be, putting the ball into the side netting or hitting the post with chances that we should be scoring. We haven't scored a goal this season. We can talk about winning games of football, and when we do talk about winning games of football, Everton have lost 3 on the bounce, but we haven't scored a goal. And ultimately, again, it might sound stupid, it might sound very Michael Owen-esque, but you can't win a game of football without scoring a goal. So if we're wanting to win games, if we're expecting to win games, we need to get over this, panicking in front of goal and this inability to take these opportunities, because we're never going to win a game of football if we can't put the ball in the back of the net. And again, Saturday was another example of a game that we dominated throughout for most of it. We had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. We didn't take them. They had about 3 chances. One of them, Jordan Pickford makes a fantastic save, and another, obviously, was rifled into the back of the net, or headed into the back of the net, and they win the game. So, yeah, again, as I said, half time. There's still that sort of worry for me, and I don't know whether anybody else thought it. Maybe you sat there at half time and thought, no, do you know what, we're the better team here, we're going to win this game. But for me, there was still that fear of, we're missing chances here, and we're not going to get away with missing another 3 or 4 in the second half and getting away with it. Ultimately, that just isn't going to happen. So yeah, as I said, Everton come out in the second half. Obviously, the hope and the expectation is that we continue to pile that pressure on. We continue to get at them, to create chances. Wolves made a couple of changes early on in the second half. Not quite sure how they managed to escape with 11 men on the pitch at the end of it. I think Lamina should have been sent off. He was about 4. He was on a yellow card, and he ragged one of our players back, which was a blatant sending off. But of course, it wasn't given, because why would it be given? Why would any right decision go in Everton's favour? They had a couple of other ones. Hwang got away with a couple of challenges in the first half. I think he got booked and then got away with a couple. But the more and more in which the second half went on, I don't want to say the more Wolves got into the game, but the more it was quite evident that both of these teams were incredibly poor in front of goal, and it was very much like watching 2 sides that just couldn't score, and would, it felt at one point that both teams would be there for 3, 4 days, 5 days continuously playing without scoring a goal, and it become a point where it was end to end, but not end to end in terms of brilliant opportunities created. It was end-to-end in terms of they'd get forward, they'd have an half chance, it'd get cleared, we'd get forward, we'd have an half chance, it would get cleared. It was very sort of, it was very, I don't know whether boring's the right word, but it was very telegraphed. It was very evident that both of these teams were struggling in the league and were struggling for ultimately that final bit of quality in the final third. Jose Sarr makes another absolutely fantastic save. Garner has a half volley double save, and Garner has a fantastic half volley, which is blocked, and then Branthwaite rebounds it, and again, Sarr makes another really good save. And ultimately, we're at this point where we're thinking, is this going to be our day? Are we going to get that goal? Wolves, as I said, back, getting towards creating chances, but not really creating chances, not massive chances. But again, you could sort of see that the more the game went on, and the more opportunities Everton were wasting, because that's what we were. We were wasting chances. Let's have it right. It wasn't like we were unlucky, or we were unfortunate, or we had a couple of decisions go against us. No, that wasn't the case at all. We were wasting opportunities, and the more and more we were wasting opportunities, the more confident Wolves seemed, and the more likely Wolves seemed to get into the game, and ultimately to get something out of the game. They then broke the deadlock before the flag was up. Ball comes in, comes off Fabio Silva's head. Fabio Silva gets in front of Jared Branthwaite, knocks the ball into the back of the net, and ultimately it's ruled offside. And again, that's when I was thinking, is this going the way we think it is? Everton have dominated the whole of the first half. Wolves have barely had a sniff at goal. We've had 3 or 4 massive opportunities to score. We've missed them. They've had one. They've scored. The flag's gone up. That should have been a warning sign. That should have been right, okay, this is, this is a sign that they can put the ball in the back of the net, and they're more than capable of getting behind our defence, and they're more than capable of breaching our defence. But we didn't take that as a warning sign. We then become a lot less effective going forward. We had numerous set pieces, corners, free kicks that were wasted. Every single ball was floated into Jose Sarr at minus 10 miles an hour, so it was comfortable for him to make a save. It was comfortable for him to deal with. Whereas every chance that Wolves had, every opportunity to put the ball in the box that Wolves had, they caused a problem. And obviously the goal ultimately come from one of those opportunities. But every time they put the ball in the back of the net, every time they put the ball in the box, it was causing an issue defensively for Everton. We were dealing with it, we were getting rid of it, but it was causing an issue. Whereas every time we put the ball in the box at their end, there was no issue. Jose Sarr was coming out and was collecting them all day long. He was picking them up, he was grasping them. He had no issue whatsoever with dealing with any of Everton's attacks, any of Everton's crosses into the box, any of Everton's balls. And as that was happening, as the crowd could tell that our crosses into the box and corners and free kicks weren't creating an issue, and theirs were creating an issue, the whole atmosphere within the stadium changed. I think the whole atmosphere, it become a lot more frustrated. There was a lot more anxiety. There was a lot more sort of worry that, well, hang on, we've just dominated the first half of this game. We've dominated the opportunities, and yet now, whilst again, I'm not saying it was like watching Manchester City versus prime Barcelona. It wasn't like that, but the chances they were creating were certainly causing us more problems than the chances we were creating causing them problems. And that offside goal ultimately should have been a warning sign, and should have been a moment where we thought, do you know what, we can't allow that to happen again. We then have a couple of big opportunities. Both Jordan Pickford and Jose Sarr make world-class saves within seconds of each other. Pickford's first, ball gets crossed out. I think Silva has a shot at goal, and Pickford makes an absolutely unbelievable save. Literally yards out from where the shot was taken. And then it goes up the other end, and Jose Sarr makes an absolutely fantastic save from an Abdoulaye Doucouré. An Abdoulaye Doucouré header. The ball comes into the box, and Doucouré gets his head on it, and really should score. Let's be honest, he really should score. There's no excuse for it. Patterson's ball comes in, it goes through everybody, goes past everybody, including Jose Sarr. Doucouré's at the back post. He headers it down. If he headers it straight and into, if he powers it Which, again, maybe that's a lot easier to say than do. Maybe when the ball is flying at you at that speed, maybe it's a bit more difficult to head it sort of, straight at goal. But if he headers it straight to goal, it goes in, no problem, and Jose Sarr doesn't save it. But he doesn't, he headers it down. And whilst it is still, by the way, an absolutely phenomenal save, it's a world-class save by Jose Sarr, it's made a lot easy for him by the angle of which the header was obviously put in. Having said that, it is still a fantastic save. It's a brilliant bit of goalkeeping, and it was that moment that I sort of thought, right, this has got 0-0 absolutely written all over it. There's no way either of these teams score. Obviously, that usually means that Everton lose the game of football. But yeah, like I said, it was a fantastic save by Jose Sarr, to be fair, and it come just minutes after Jordan Pickford had made an equally good save at the other end. And like I said, it was sort of, I think there was a feeling around the stadium at that point that this was just destined to be a goalless draw. Sean Dyche makes a change. He brings on Yusuf Chermiti for his debut with half an hour to go. Lewis Dobbin goes off, Wolves make a couple of changes. Everton then score. The VAR flag goes up. Garner and Chermiti link up brilliantly. Decore gets on the end of it, curls the shot underneath the goalkeeper, and the flag goes up. The VAR take a look. It takes a couple of minutes. Again, I've not seen it back. I've seen a couple of screenshots of it. I've seen some people say it's clearly offside. I've seen other people say it's not offside. Again, I've not watched it back. I've been busy the last couple of days. So yeah, the flag goes up. They've had one disallowed, for offside, and one saved brilliantly. We've had one disallowed for offside and one saved brilliantly. Quite an even sort of second half. At this point, Everton were much the dominant team in the first half. That is just a matter of fact. But the second half was very, very even, and it could have easily been 1-1 or 2-2 if it wasn't for for margins and a couple of brilliant saves. But the fear and the anxiety and the worry obviously is that if these have one big chance here, and put it in the back of the net, are we going to be able to muster another final big chance with sort of 10 minutes to go? And that's exactly what happened. They make a couple of changes. Kalajic comes on, and with 5 minutes to go, if that, the 87th minute, cross comes in. He gets on the end of the cross. Not even a powerful header. Literally just glides off his head, goes underneath Jordan Pickford, and goes into the back of the net, and Everton all of a sudden find themselves 1-0 down with 5 minutes to go in a game that they've totally dominated. And that is the story of Everton Football Club at the moment, isn't it, really? Dominating games of football, creating opportunities, not being able to take them, and then losing at the depth against teams that have done very, very little for 90 minutes. The goal in itself for me is terrible all round, just absolutely terrible all round. Defensively, it's shocking. I think it needs to be dealt with by by the goalkeeper. I think the goalkeeper sticks on his line. Ultimately, we just witnessed 80 odd minutes of Jose Sarr coming out and collecting every single cross that Everton put into the box. Every single ball Everton put in the box, every single free kick, every single corner, every single opportunity Everton had to cross the ball in, Jose Sarr come out and he dealt with it. We needed Jordan Pickford to do that just once. We needed Jordan Pickford to come out, be strong. Even if he just gets a touch on that ball, he is then taken out by the defender or by the attacker, and a foul is given all day long, every single day of the week. A foul is given on the goalkeeper in that situation. He doesn't do that. The ball comes in. He retreats further back. He doesn't even stay where he is. He retreats further back onto his line. Tarkowski doesn't win the header. The fella jumps up. He heads it into the back of the net. And, as I said, at that point, the frustration then is just through the roof. Manager makes a couple of changes. He brings Tom Cannon on. He brings Michael Keane on up front. But ultimately, it's not to be. Everton don't create another chance in the game. Final whistle is blown, and we've somehow managed to lose our second consecutive home game, despite having whatever it was, 30, 40 odd shots in both of those games, and not score a single goal. Now, again, ultimately, hindsight is a wonderful thing. No, Everton graphics, I wasn't in London modelling the new circuit. Hindsight ultimately is a wonderful thing, and we've signed a striker now, and we could sit here and say, well, Cam, Beto's come in and he could solve all of those problems. If Beto has the chance that Decore has, maybe he's not offside. If Beto has the chance that Mobai had against Fulham, then ultimately maybe he puts them in the back of the net. The reality is Everton have known we've needed a striker for 2 years now, if not longer. It shouldn't have taken 2 defeats at home against 2 poor teams. And I will say that, and I know I had a few Wolves fans having a go at me on Saturday for saying they're a poor team. They are a poor team. And for those Wolves fans that were saying, well, Everton are a poor team, I agree. Everton are a poor team. We're a shocking team. Hence why I did the video on Sunday talking about Everton's board and what needs to change and what needs to happen, because we are a poor team. But Wolves are also a very poor team, and that is a matter of fact. That can't be denied. And ultimately, this was another massive, massive wake-up call. Another massive wake-up call. Everton, once again, have lost the game of football that they should not have lost. Now, whether or not we deserve to win it, you deserve what you deserve, and you create your own luck. But the reality is to lose that game after losing the game against Fulham is devastating, and it puts even more pressure on the game tomorrow against Doncaster, and then the game on Saturday afternoon against Sheffield United. And if Everton lose both of those games, then Sean Dyche is in a very, very difficult predicament, and one that he might find himself difficult to get out of. It's absolutely essential that Everton win tomorrow night, and then Everton go and get something on Saturday. Whether it's a win will be difficult because it's away from home, and as we've established, Everton away from home, don't do very well. But it, again, adds further pressure on the next 2 games. It really, really does. I said going into this season, one of me main sort of talking points and thoughts going into this season was that if Everton were to stay in the Premier League, then we were going to need to win those games at Goodison Park that we expect to win. Win those games at Goodison Park against those teams that we should be beating. Fulham and Wolves are 2 teams that Everton should be beating. It's as simple as that. Absolutely as simple as that. And we haven't won either of them. We haven't. And not only have we not won either of them, we've lost the both of them in circumstances that we should never have lost both of them in. So, for me, we know the problems. As I've said a couple of times already, the problem isn't just a striker. We've signed a striker now, and Beto's come in, and hopefully Beto can get on the end of chances, and hopefully Beto can put the ball in the back of the net in those moments where we haven't been able to already this season. But a striker isn't the only problem. Everton need to go out for me and buy a goal-scoring winger. Everton need to go out for me and buy a creative midfielder. Everton need to go out for me and buy a full-back, maybe even a centre-back. We've been linked with a couple over the last few days, but the problems are quite evident, and this for me feels like another wasted opportunity, another wasted 3 points, and it now means that Everton are going to have to go out and win 2 games that we don't expect us to win. Now, whether that's against Man City at Goodison, a Merseyside derby against Arsenal, whatever it might be, we can't afford to throw 2 winnable games out the window and not replace those points. Otherwise, we will once again be in a relegation battle come the end of the season. The focus now is on tomorrow. Hopefully we can get the first win of the season, and that can build a little bit of confidence and a little bit of momentum going into Sheffield United. But this one for me was another massively disappointing day. And even though we had a lot of chances, and even though we were maybe unlucky, and even though we should have won the game or we should have got something out the game, doesn't matter what we should have done. We didn't. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. And that for me is incredibly, incredibly frustrating. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. because we've got a preview to do for tomorrow's game. If you have enjoyed this one, please do leave a like. Go and check out the Beto video that we recorded earlier on if you want to hear my thoughts on Beto signing for the football club. Massive thank you for all of the support as always on all of the videos recently. The support has been absolutely massive, so thank you all so much. If you have enjoyed this, please leave a like. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Big thank you all for watching. Up the toffees. Let's hope that we can do some serious business over the next few days in the transfer window. Let's hope we can go out, win this game tomorrow, go to Sheffield United on Saturday, beat them as well, and let's hope that Beto can come in and do what we all want him to do and need him to do, and that is score goals for Everton Football Club, because one thing is for certain, we ain't got enough of those goal scorers. The midfielders don't chip in enough. Again, Onana, good for the first half, faded off. Garner Gay, poor for me. James Garner, not a right winger, so ultimately didn't perform as to the level he should be. We know what we need, and it's time to go out and do it. Big thank you all for watching, and we'll see you later.